All the way back in April of 2008, the Electronic Gaming Monthly magazine published an article giving us an early look at LEGO Halo, an upcoming game being developed by Bungie and slated for release in the fall of that year. According to a senior project lead, they knew a spin-off was a clear path forward for the franchise, and with a Peter Jackson project already helping expand the lore, a LEGO game was picked due to how impressively LEGO Star Wars the video game had adapted the Star Wars films. In it, you'd be playing through the first 3 games as iconic characters like Master Chief, Avery J. Johnson, and Cortana, along with newcomers like Bird 041. Of course, this isn't real. It was included as part of a special April Fool's edition of the magazine, and the LEGO Group, with its anti-military stance, would obviously not want anything to do with the Halo franchise. But what about another building block company, one that has no such qualms making sets based on more violent franchises like Halo and Call of Duty? Well, this is Project Haggar, a Mega Bloks Halo game developed by N-Space starting in 2013, just a few years after Mega Bloks Halo sets were originally unveiled. The goal here was simple, to combine the creativity of the building blocks to the action gameplay of the video game franchise. Unfortunately, it didn't progress beyond the early prototype stage, with several developers knowing that the cancellation felt sudden, coming after several months of silence between Microsoft and N-Space. The reason for this move isn't known, but it has been theorized that it being developed for the Xbox 360 at the end of that console's life cycle and the lackluster sales of its successor, the Xbox One, led to the company not wanting to invest any further into it. N-Space would go on to try rebranding the prototype to an original IP, but ended up shutting down just a few years later. So how are you seeing gameplay of it on screen? Well, as it turns out, footage of a demo was leaked in 2017, and after several years of work, modders were able to make most of it functional again, allowing anyone to play it on the Xenia emulator for Xbox 360, and I thought it'd be interesting to check it out in celebration of April Fools. The demo starts with some text telling you that Covenant forces being spotted near a remote base monitoring Forerunner installations led you to being deployed, but your Pelican is attacked by a swarm of Banshee en route, causing you to crash into a nearby forest. After encountering a few Ungoi and Sangeli hiding behind destructible cover, you come across a large gap and need to build a bridge using a blueprint found nearby. This is where the gameplay differs quite a bit from LEGO titles by TD Games. Rather than simply holding the use button or having to pick a few specific bricks as seen in the LEGO Movie video game, you have to manually build it brick by brick. Progressing further brings us to another combat set piece, followed by a parkour section before we get our first cutscene, featuring familiar humor as well as dialogue. Here we also see the introduction of buildable defenses, including walls and turrets. These are especially useful for defeating this gigantic Meg Gallicolo, as they act as distractions while you shoot at its weak point. After more building, we get to spawn in a vehicle, with the choices being the iconic Warthog, which crashes your game is selected, the small Mongoose, as well as the heavily armored Scorpion tank. This is where the demo starts showing game-breaking issues, with the Warthog being specifically required to progress. Thankfully, commands are included in this build, allowing you to auto-complete the objectives as well as no clip through this barrier. Continuing the level will show even more signs of lacking polish, including developer textures and missing characters. We end up returning our steps, now also having to deal with Keg Yar until getting to an extended tower defense section, requiring you to build mines and turrets to prevent enemies from attacking cores. After defeating 3 waves of enemies, including a boss, and hopefully not soft-locking, we make our way back to another previous section where we activate 2 spires to unlock the Forerunner Highway. We then make it to by far the least polished section of the demo, where developer text in the top left explains missing gameplay mechanics like moving platforms and assignments as puzzle. After making it to a dam, we get a rapid fire sequence of more building, combat sections, an explosive escape sequence, and platforming until reaching another tower defense section. Once completed, we go to rescue a kidnapped scientist, defend the pump station from enemies, and finally end the demo. As mentioned before, this project would not progress any further beyond this, being unceremoniously cancelled after less than a year of development, and while there were other attempts at combining both Mega Bloks and Halo digitally, none of them would pan out. It's interesting because as far as I'm aware, no building block brand other than the LEGO Group has been able to see such long-standing success in the video game space, with them surpassing 30 years of games just a few months ago. Beyond a single Mega Bloks game for the Nintendo DS and a few Creo web games, none have gotten anywhere near the same recognition, which is why I wonder if Mattel Brickshop, a new brand by the same company that owns Mega, will potentially expand to making games in the coming years. They've only released a few sets so far, entirely focused on recreating cars under the Hot Wheels IP, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them appearing in something like a Forza Horizon DLC or even an Asphalt Legends event in the coming years.